I'm Josh Van.
And I'm Simone Darmini,
the creators of The Spider King, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
That was stunning, Deb, as usual.
You get better with age, I guess.
I feel like you're wearing a tux when you did that one. It was very formal.
I'm wearing a collared shirt, actually.
So. Barbara's wedding would be a black tie there, so we could all be all tuxes together. But
I'm wearing one. I don't know about y'all.
It's colorful semi-formal.
It is.
Yeah. I'm going tie shopping this weekend, actually.
Nice. Get a Jerry Garcia tie. They're beautiful.
They are. I had a couple.
I had many. Yeah.
This was the wifey's dress. That's the goal.
Just tie one of her panties around your neck.
Oh, family. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the family show that is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 923. I'm Vince B.
You are Vince B. I'm David A. Price.
Yes, you are, and I'm Nandor the Relentless.
Wow. Nandor the Relentless. I don't think so. I think you're Jason Wood, everybody, here together on this good old-fashioned average episode. Our average is better than most people's best day. So, it's true. Brought to you by the far above average cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. You say you want an omnibus edition or a trade paperback. Maybe you're looking for some manga, or an OGN. Well, they have all that stuff at a fraction of the price listed on the back. You could laugh at that. Oh, I will not pay that. I will pay far less. And after you're done paying for something, you're going to get an email message that says, hey, thank you for ordering from cheapgraphicnovels.com. Respond to that email by saying 11 O'Clock Comics sent me, and good old Maxarino will give you free shipping on your next order. It's effortless, and it's wonderful. Cheapgraphicnovels.com.
Good old Maxarino, you said.
Yeah. Maximilian.
So are neither of you fans of what we do in the shadows? Because that's where my name came from.
I've never seen it.
We haven't finished the first season yet. We keep getting back. We keep getting sidetracked, but I want to get back to it.
I think it's very funny.
I do too.
Is there a series you don't watch, Deb?
Yes.
Flat out, yes.
All the CBS procedurals they don't watch.
I love those. Yeah, those are good.
Well, of course, because they're CBS. They're made for you.
What does that mean?
It's an old people channel.
Oh. That's not
60 Minutes.
I do like Dateline, though.
That's NBC.
Well, I like that.
Yeah. Renee loves going to sleep to listening to Keith Morris talking.
Yep.
He's her favorite contributor.
The median these days of CNN, Fox, and MSNBC is 70 years old. Median. Meaning half of the people watching this fucking channels are over 70 years old. Like, that's insanity.
Well, yeah.
It's insanity. Vince included.
That's whack. It really is. But anyway, what the hell is Dap drinking?
Dap is... I am enjoying some Basil Hayden Dark Rye.
Oh, yes, you are.
You thinking of Tana?
No comment. There was
She'll be a hero.
Yes, she will be. Actually, she's there's a ladies' con, I believe, this weekend in Boston for one day that she was promoting on the Insta. But yeah, I was going to. I bought some wine yesterday when we were out strolling, but maybe I'll save it for next week.
Nice. Let's bring the book. What do we have? A lot of good books came out.
All the books, Vince.
Yeah. What are you digging?
Well, a couple things. You guys know that it loves me some 100 bullets. This you know, right?
Yes.
It's fact. You understand this is facts? Yes, Vince? Vince?
Hashtag facts.
Okay. And so when Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso start a new series, I pay attention. Then, when Brian Azzarello says that his inspiration creatively for this new series is none other than Cormac McCarthy, rest in peace, Blood Meridian, my ears really pick up because, again, you both know this, but for our listeners who might not, Blood Meridian is one of my 5 all-time favorite novels. So I'm like, wait a minute. The 100 Bullets crew is going to do a super violent Western comic in the spirit of Blood Meridian? That's perfection. And that is exactly what we got, published by DSTLRY, and it's called The Blood Brothers Mother, #1. DSTLRY books are oversized. I think this thing was, 60 pages, give or take. Expensive. It's like $10, I think, right? Isn't that what we talked about? I think it's $9 or $10. I don't have it sitting here, but it's not. It was $9 or $10. But you're getting almost 3 comics worth of issues. So it's not that pricey if you think of it that way. But the cover price tag still feels expensive, no doubt about it. But when someone compares something that they're doing to Blood Meridian, I am going to judge it with the harshest of severe critical eyes because, again, I think that's just about the most perfect book of its kind. And this comic started, the opening pages had me worried because I thought, man, you shouldn't have put Blood Meridian into my head here because it's just too high a bar. If you just told me that you two badasses were going to do a Western comic, I would have been all over this. But fortunately for them, and the format of it being such an oversized issue because of the way DSTLRY does their books, by the end of this issue, I was in for sure. Because the premise is the first issue is basically a prologue. It's narrated by who I'm to believe is I don't want to say protagonist because these are pretty awful people, but I'm assuming the person that will be the lead character in the rest of the series. And it's narrated from that present tense, but it's a flashback to when he and his brother were young children. And most of the issue revolves around his father, who was in prison and was set to be hanged, and he escapes and gets rescued. And they go on their way, basically trying to get their money back, and hijinks ensue. And we get to the point where we then realize why the aforementioned Blood Brothers are in what I'm assuming we'll see in the subsequent issues, holding a massive grudge and hate their father. So it's a bit of a prologue. It is ultra violent. If you are offended by the visual depiction of overt gory violence, but realistic violence, right? Not horror violence, but sexual assault and brutality to children and women, this is not a book for you. This would be a very triggering book for a lot of people. So now I would hope that they probably wouldn't have bought the book in the first place because of the subject matter in the previews, but just be forewarned, this is probably one of the most violently depicted books I've seen in American comics in a long time. So take of that what you will, but if you're okay with that, if you can look past that and understand that's the kind of the point of the story is to make these people appear to be every bit the depraved evil bastards that you so you can hate them, then it's highly effective in that regard. But the other really fascinating thing to me is, I'm a huge Risso fan, as you guys know. I'm fortunate enough to own a bunch of his art. He paints his own work this time. He paints over his lines in this book. And it has a very neat effect in the sense that you can still tell it's Risso, but it looks looser and more interpretive than his work usually does because of the paint, of the watercolor. And I just thought that was a really nice touch. And probably helps take a little smidge of the edge of some of the violence that we see. Although, again, it's still very overt, so I don't want to downplay that. But I'm in again. I think it's a very high bar that they set, but I really did think that by the end I was totally hooked in seeing what these boys grow up to be and the absolute revenge carousel that they're about to take themselves on to avenge their. I don't think it's a spoiler to say their mother's death because the book is called Blood Brother's Mother. So it was pretty awesome, but again, just with a big parental warning advisory that this is only for people that are okay with ultra-violent comics.
Yeah. On the art, it does look like Risso to me, but it also has a lot of Will Eisner and William Messner Loebs in there to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a lot softer.
Very soft is the word. Yeah, I was trouble grasping at that, but that's the right word, yeah.
I was shocked that the colors are borderline pastel-y on some pages. They're very powdery and soft and odd, but then maybe that was a creative decision to slam the many panels featuring the deep reds of Bloodshed, because it is very shocking. You'll have this real subtle spread with like peachy oranges and maybe like pale blues, and so someone's sitting around a fire and all of a sudden like someone will get shot through the eye and there's just like blood everywhere. It's like very peck and paw, right? And it's just it's a very odd, though I think it's pretty unique, the approach. I love the look of it, but it's not what I expected from Eduardo Risso. Like, I thought we were going to get strong blacks, lots of whites to balance it out, like, negative spaces, but it's not that. Everything is rendered. Everything has a color applied. And I think it's very neat, though atypical approach for Risso. I really like the look a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, because, they've done a lot of stuff together. They did Moonshine, and they did that Batman run, and they did the Wolverine mini, the Japanese World War II era mini. So they've worked together on other stuff other than 100 Bullets, but as we both made, that this looks, by design, substantially different visually than any of those other projects. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm here. I really enjoyed it.
You can tell it's Risso. But
absolutely, yeah. But enjoy. It's one of those things. Like, I enjoyed it, but it is weird to say enjoy because I don't want to come off like I'm some kind of sadist. Like it was.
I don't think that's fair.
It's harsh.
No, it is very harsh. But and I would say for comics, it's a bit transgressive in the violence. But if you are going to settle into a comfort zone and keep reading the same stuff, it's like treading water. You're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to grow as a reader. I mean, you can try it. Maybe you won't like it, but at least try it, right? The very notion of not reading something that applies to your very specific tastes is bizarre to me. Like, why would you want to read the same stuff? Oh, this is in my wheelhouse. I'm going to read this. Like, that's great, but and it's the same thing applies to me. Like, I like to tease you about your apparent love of young female coming to terms with their sexuality books. Like, and I will read one of those or more of those from time to time just to step outside because I don't like to be comfortable. I don't think the point of art is to find comfort. I think it's to be shook, to be shaken on some level, not in terms of the violence, specifically the violence of this book, but just have your sensibilities shaken like, hey, these young female coming to terms with their sexuality books can be really good. And I never would have known that or experienced that if I didn't step out of that bubble that I've created for myself.
Absolutely, yeah. And I give Azzarello credit. He's always been willing to push the envelope in lots of different ways. And, I'm here for it. I also think, since we're talking about this, there have been a lot of new to newish publishers over the last 5 to 7 years, and I think the pandemic really accelerated that, part by necessity, part by because people were sitting around feeling like, why not me? DSTLRY is the brainchild of the guys who founded Comixology. They're taking their Amazon money and starting a new publisher. It's definitely a different business model than what a lot of people are out there doing. But I will say, at the heart of it, it's something to appreciate, which is that it is for creators by creators, right? Like the creators, much like with Image, retain all of the rights in all ways, shape, or form, which I think is cool. And when I saw this solicited and I was reading about the premise, because again, it was like pretty bold to me to hear Azzarello mention Blood Meridian. Like, I just thought the balls on this guy. And in one of the interviews, of course, they were asking him, why are you doing it at DSTLRY, so forth, so on. And I guess I didn't know this, but he's a founding member of the team. I don't know if that means equity in the firm or whatever, but they were talking about how, like, they didn't really feel like there was a lot of buzz for DSTLRY books. The interviewer was saying this to him, and he said, this is a weird industry. Retailers want what you did, then they want you to do it again, but they want something new, but they want it to feel familiar. And right. I thought, that's a jaded view of a guy who's probably not had the. And I don't know for all I know, the guy's filthy rich. I don't know, but I'm guessing. I would bet that Azzarello is not someone who has had the financial windfall that's analogous to his talent level. Like, that would be my supposition. I could be totally wrong, but that's where I'm coming from, and that reads to me like someone of that ilk, right? Like, I don't know that other creators would necessarily describe the industry in that same way. But regardless of why he said what he said there, I was like, that's I kind of agree with him. Like, I empathize with that view, right? Like that's the trick, right? We want things to feel nostalgic and to feel like it brings us back to when we were in love with this stuff in the first place, but we don't want it to be too different, right? But we don't want to feel like we've read it before. It's tricky. It's a tightrope, man. I don't envy these guys.
No, but there are a number of creators out there that have managed to do just that. Give you kind of the same thing, but different, but keep it in the relative wheelhouse of what we know from these writers. Rick Remender is one of them right there. Like, he seems to do something different every single time, but it feels like a Remender book. And
Tom's very good at that too. I mean, that's like obviously the trope, the 12-issue trope, right? But that's like, it works for him.
And another guy that has fallen into that groove is Kirkman. Everything Kirkman creates is different. Yeah, but it's still...
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, to go from Walking Dead to Invincible to, was Battle Pope before? Yeah, I think it was before.
Yeah.
And then, all of the things that came later. The flavor is not the same, but it still feels like you have a relationship with the chef, just to keep it in food terms. Yeah.
But we've talked about this a lot over the years. There are creators, though, that, like, to me, Kirkman switches up the skin and the costume layer, but, like, his structure, his pacing, his, like, the way he approaches character development, like, I feel like, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but, like, I think you know a Kirkman book when you read it, right? Whereas, like, and again, I'm not saying everyone has to be, but, like, whereas, like, an Alan Moore, right? Like
oh yeah, that's yeah.
And I get he's the go. Like, that's probably not fair to bring him up, but my point is, like, I really appreciate writers who can give you books that just, if you had a blind taste test, you'd never guess that the same writer wrote those books, because it's not just the pacing, the structure, the dialogue, the tone. All of it feels different, Right. I think Jason Aaron is. I mean, I've often said I think he is capable of that when he's on his game. I think a lot of Jason Aaron books read very differently tonally and structurally. Whereas I would say that, like, Kirkman and, like, even Tom, like, while I'm sure they're capable of stretching in that regard, like, I feel like they're a little more comfortable in their own skin, just kind of doing what they do and doing it really well, if that makes sense.
Right. I get you, and I agree with you. Yep. Yeah. I want to take you guys to hell.
Wouldn't be the first, won't be the last.
Drag you to hell with this book. I had no idea that this thing even existed, and it's on its third issue now. How it crossed my field of vision, I don't know, but it did. Maybe it was diabolic intervention, but it came to my notice, and I'm like, that sounds interesting. Let me see what's up with this. It was written by Noah Gardner and Ryan Parrott. Illustrated by John J. Pearson with Lola Bonato, and the lettering is, of course, by Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou. It's a little book from Image called The Infernals. Either of you familiar with this?
I mean, I'm familiar with it, but I have not read it.
Same.
Well, if there was ever a book that was created specifically for me, this is it. Because the focal point is a man named Abraham Morgenstern, who is the son of the devil. He's the Antichrist.
Okay.
He's also the top dog of the largest criminal enterprise on the planet. But, ironically, unfortunately for Abraham, he has cancer. And it has metastasized to many organs, and he's got 1 month to live. So if you're the Antichrist, and you have a very specific role to play on the planet, and you have 1 month to do it, what do? Right? Well, fortunately, maybe, for Abraham, he has children. He has heirs to which he can bequeath this criminal enterprise. But unfortunately, none of his heirs are suited for the role, right? He has 3 kids, Nero, Jackal, and Baphomet. And Baphomet is a woman, by the way. Nero's the firstborn. He's a fuck-up. So Abraham does not want to hand over the keys to Nero. Jackal is loyal to the family and really good at what he does. Jackal's a shapeshifter, but his heart's not in it. And Baphomet is very young. She's in boarding school. Very sarcastic, very acerbic. She is the daughter of the Antichrist, so she is cookie cutter nasty, right? So Abraham is hoping to find a way out of this when he has a business meeting with a woman called Mrs. Evelyn Endo, or Ms. Endo, and there's discussions going on like merging their organizations, and she's talking apps and encryption and algorithms and spreadsheet, everything that gives Jason a chubby. But she openly voices disapproval of her predecessor because Abraham's like, this is not how we did it under, the former head. And she's like, she claimed he lacked vision. And despite his infernal origins, honor is very important to Abraham. The merger fails. He basically tells her to fuck off, get out of my office. And she vows revenge and plans to supplant Abraham by summoning Prince Lucifer. She summons Lucifer to plead her case. But instead of Lucifer, she gets his personal secretary, Azzarello. So now these two are working behind the scenes to knock Abraham down a few pegs. Then there's a CEO of a company called Epiphany. His name's Rain Driscoll. And this is $1 billion tech giant, with the hair and the white skyscraper and everything's pressed and clean and wholesome with quotes. This guy wants to save the world by purging mankind's fear and cruelty. To put it in perspective, Baphomet calls him a Gen Z Gandhi, right? But he has this AI that he's created, this advanced artificial intelligence that can predict future outcomes with unbelievable accuracy. And he's got this grand scheme of just giving it away for free. The cover story is he believes it can change the world for the better, save the world from itself. So Jackal and his siblings have a meeting with this guy on the precipice of him releasing the AI and getting all the attention. And Jackson makes a play for Driscoll to withhold the AI until the right time so he can be seen as like the savior of humanity when the time is exactly right. But Driscoll has an ace up his sleeve. The heavenly host is on his payroll. And we're talking angels, not just in the traditional depiction of angels with the blonde hair and the flowing robes and the wings. But remember, I don't know if you've ever read the Bible, but there's a depiction of angels in the Bible as having millions, many eyes around a wheel, and like not the traditional Judeo-Christian as it is now depiction of an angel. This is like a sphere with eyes all over it, like that is sitting at the board table along with, your traditional looking angels. And I thought it was a neat little touch. If you read the Book of Enoch, there's a description of an angel in there that is exactly what this thing is. But that meeting doesn't go well either. A lot of failed meetings in this thing. And Driscoll brings his armed guards in, take them into custody, but Nero's a shapeshifter. So, Jackal's a shapeshifter. Nero can mesmerize groups of people. So he locks down the building. Everybody thinks everything's okay, but the spell takes like a massive toll on him while they take him captive. And then two other entities enter the picture, Ms. Saturday and Mr. Sunday. They are hit people. And they are there to just take the whole thing down. Meanwhile, Jackal assumes the form of Driscoll. This book is crazy. It is like The Sopranos, but with an infernal perspective, where you have this crime organization run by a man who is the Antichrist. He's got a job to do, but he can't do it because he has cancer. And then it's awesome. And then at one point, Abraham's ex-wife Lilith enters the picture. Lilith is a succubus, and Abraham's already married to another woman, but Lilith claims that during the divorce proceedings, he gave her 50% of all of his stuff. So she owns half of his organization, which does not please the new wife at all. And she wants to come in and transform shit. It's a mixture of like boardroom antics, but you have, the legions of hell involved. It's absolutely insane. Like, I don't know any other book out there that it has like a, pun intended, devil may care approach where it's bringing real world machinations, right? Like the boardroom is in essence a battleground, right? Where, proposals are made, counters are offered, and it's a very structured, very methodical approach, which is in a sense a skirmish. It's a battle, right? Well, this is like writ large, including heaven and hell. It's absolutely insane. The art, unfortunately, it's a bit like Martin Simmons' work.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about the art. The book does have a very Department of Truth vibe. It's not as Sienkiewicz as Martin Simmons' work, but it's fully painted, very illustrative. But some of when Pearson and Bonato go there to depict something from hell, it's just stunning. But in the more mundane scenes where it's just basically talking heads, it's serviceable, but it's not it doesn't wow me as much as the work where there's a double page spread that has effigies on it, and then it's layered and structured in a way that just pulls you down the page, and it's gorgeous. But then you flip a page or two, and it's just people at a table talking. So you have the fantastic, then you also have the mundane. And I guess there's a balance there, because then the fantastic stuff wouldn't be so shocking if the mundane stuff weren't there to counterpoint. But I think this book is great. The story's what really is grabbing me. It doesn't pull any punches either. It's as profane as you would think it would be. A lot of foul language, a lot of bloodshed, no one can be trusted in this book. No one. And I think it's a perfect little illustration of hell creeping to the surface. I like it a lot. Again, it's not going to click with a whole bunch of people. So I'm in fear of the lifespan of this thing. I hope they get to tell the story they had planned going in, but I don't know if it's a miniseries or an ongoing. It doesn't seem like a miniseries, but it is, yeah. It is very, very cool. There's a text piece in one of the issues where Hassan goes into his process, and you almost never see that, right? It's always a focus on the writer or the visual artists, which a letterer is, but like a penciler or an inker and stuff. But now there's a investigation on how Hassan does his thing, and it was refreshing to see that, where they threw little flowers at the letterer, and he does great work in the book, so it's totally warranted. But yeah, this is a neat little title. Not going to change the world, but it did manage to impact mine. So there you go, The Infernals from Image. I don't expect either of you to read it.
Well, just for that, I will try it.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty raw.
I'll let you, if I don't like it, either way, I'll read the first issue. I'll let you know.
But again, targeted.
I'm surprised that the art was okay for you, though.
It was
just because.
Yeah, it's a little too. It's a little too realistic in some spots, and again, one of the one of the takeaways from Rizzo's work on Blood Brother's Mother also applies here. I think the color palette employed is a little bit too pastel for my liking. It's throw some ochres in there, right? Darken it up. But again, I'm an asshole because on the pages where they do that, the work looks phenomenal. It's just that it's a very delicate balance between real flesh and blood, even though they have their origins in hell, real people running around, and boardroom atmosphere type, scenes, and then you get, the counterpoint with the infernal stuff. So I don't know. It seems a little. Some of the art is a little too sanitized for me. I would like a little.
Pearson said that he drew inspiration from the lurid color palettes of Italian giallo cinema, the rawness of late 80s painted comics, and the feel of early Vertigo titles at their peak.
Nice. I don't see giallo in it at all. The giallo colors are shocking.
There you go.
Very high chroma. These, I guess they're high chroma, but they seem to be, the colors employed are very often muted, and I'm not saying it's bad. It's just it maybe as the series progresses, maybe hopefully it'll get a little more risks will be taken. Let's just say that.
The cover of the first issue with the homeboy over here looking like the tall man from Phantasm.
His name is Angus Scrimm.
In the book or in Phantasm?
That's the actor who played him, Angus Scrimm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fourth issue comes out in next month in June, but it doesn't say anything about whether or not it doesn't say it's a limited series. So I'm guessing
by the end of the third issue, one issue is not going to wrap this up. So yeah, I'm hoping it's an ongoing. Would be nice. Fingers crossed. Just something different, that, nobody has a cape. And, it's, yeah. I'm just stunned that he said giallo. It's kind of shocking, but okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Remender was mentioned earlier. Something else with no capes. It's a story set in the long ago time of 1984. The Grommets by Rick Remender and Brian Posehn, and art by Parson. The story is it's so, it reminds me of the short time when we lived out west, and how things were. But yeah, we're introduced to a young boy being dropped off at school. His dad's dropping him off. Dad seems to be in a midlife crisis, cruising along on his in his Corvette in Sacramento, and they have to stop by. They have to drive through. They have to stop at the liquor store, hit the drive-through, so Dad can pick up a Coors Tall Boy on the way to school. Drops his son off, and what's weird is so we see he's got his skateboard with him. He's got his backpack. His backpack is covered with patches and buttons, minor threat, the cramps, and I point that out because he mentioned something a little later which kind of struck me as odd considering his taste in music, but he's getting picked on at school. He's the new kid. He sees a bunch of kids outside with some skateboards, figures, okay, if they're heading to the skate park, I'll hang out with them. I'll they're cool. Hopefully I'm cool. We'll hang out together. They ditch him pretty quickly. And then another kid comes up behind him and says, listen, don't worry about those losers. My grandpa will take us to the skate park. After Rick, the main character, Mom comes by with the van to pick him up from school, but Rick's like, no, I'm going to go to the skate park. He turns around and all those kids have ditched him. And that's when this other, another kid from school comes up behind Rick and says, listen, man, you don't need them. You can come to the park with me. Granddad's a trip. Not really sure if he's actually, I mean, I'm kind of like grandpa in air quotes, I think. I'm not sure what the relationship might actually be. I'm sure it is his grandfather, but it's weird. But again, it's out west. It's the early 80s. But homeboy asked Rick if he likes Rush, and Rick's like, aren't they Satan worshipers? And I'm like, but you listen to everything else you listen to and you think Rush? Anyway, she's like, no, man, they're from Toronto. They're good, but this is their best album. And he's like, before they added all the queefy keyboard bullshit, puts the tape in the deck and just starts rocking out. They compare skateboards, the decks, trucks, everything like that. They get to the park, and Parson does a really good job of just giving you a variety of characters at this park, between the styles of clothes, the hairstyles, just the expressions. It's a cartoony look, but in a really good way. This was what's interesting is one kid's name is Rick. His new friend's name is Brian. I don't know what the relationship between Remender and Posehn is. I don't know how far back they go. Obviously, he was in Deadly Class when it was on Sci-Fi, so I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where they know each other from. I mean, for all I know, this just could be.
They did not grow up together.
Okay, thank you. There's a neat couple of pages where this meteor breaks off and falls to Earth, and you see it through the ages between the dinosaurs, the Neanderthals, indigenous folks, hippies, and before that, Depression era, a bunch of biker dudes, until this bird picks it up and flies with it and happens to drop it over the skate park when Brian is cruising through the maze, and the wheel hits this piece of meteor. My man just does a header. It picks his face up, and that's the end of the issue. Just a grateful page spread. But I didn't know I really didn't know. I figured, listen, we got the preview. Rick's been on a roll for me, so I'm definitely going to check it out. I didn't know if I was just going to read this issue and be like, okay, I tried it, and I can move on to something else. But I am really curious about this now. I got to I'll check out the second issue. I wasn't a skateboarder growing up, so I don't have that connection with it. I think the art is pretty fitting. I kind of want to just know more about Brian, about Rick, about Rick's family. It was interesting. It was a funky first issue. It's nothing like The Sacrifice, just nothing like Napalm Lullaby. But it was a nice change of pace for everything else that I've been reading. I appreciated the detour, so to speak. But I was happy. I was happily surprised. I did not know what to expect. But I had more fun with this than I thought I would.
It's definitely. I mean, it's by far and away, at least for one issue, the happiest, most straightforward book Rick's ever done. I mean, it's
yes.
It's and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he is designing it to be an all ages book, which is obviously very out of character for him. And it is I mean, I know that they're different ages and didn't grow up together, but I know that when they were doing press for this in New York, they both talked. I mean, Rick talked about how he sucked at sports, and then he discovered the skating world, and that basically saved his life. And Posehn, I guess, had a similar experience where he also was a skateboarder, and it was like his thing. So I think that's how they connected with this. But yeah, they didn't grow up together, but I think they had similar childhoods where skateboarding was like their thing, and it was before they were like, at least to hear Rick say it, he says it, they were into it before it was like cool to be in it. Now, I mean, I'm not sure I quite buy that, because like Tony Hawk's like in his 60s now, so like
yeah.
Like, I think we were like, he's our age, and that was like, skating was the thing then, like that, so but whatever, regardless of that, it was obviously a super important part of his life, and it is weird to see him just be straightforward and happy in a book. Like, that is very strange. And Parson is a great fit for this, because like you said, he's cartoony, and I think fits this well, fits the tone of this book really well.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I could definitely see it. I mean, visually, I could see it, well, at least until that last page. Even so, the all ages tag is interesting because some of the language. I mean, they're high school kids, so I mean, obviously they're calling each other dickweed and telling Grandpa that he diddles little kids, things like that. So, it's the language is definitely leaning towards the PG-13 side, but I could appreciate the attempt to do to tell a story that's more open to a wider audience.
I checked it out because Remender's name was on the cover.
Yep.
Posehn's not a draw for me.
And he really isn't for me either. Like, he's a funny dude, but I mean, I've never picked up, I never saw his name attached to anything going, yeah, I definitely got to check this out.
Yeah. My dislike was immense.
No kidding.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. I don't know where he's. Visually it's well done. I didn't care for the story at all. It is. Yeah, it's not for me.
I was enjoying a lot of the background images with the depending on. I mean, you've got. There's the liquor store, but there was also one with. You've got, of course, the cigarette billboards. And a lot of it for me was just a kind of a blast from the past, just picking up things that I remember seeing way, way, way back when. There's a Camel ad, one of a kind, big old billboard right on the street. So, yeah, it's just it's kind of like almost like a time capsule kind of thing. I'm more curious because of the era. If this was a book from the 90s, I probably wouldn't be as or if the time period was was the 90s, I probably wouldn't be as intrigued. But the early 80s kind of is a sweet spot for me.
There you go. What else do we have? Jason, what are you chewing on? Besides,
Sorry, I was on mute. Well, I will say that I read because you mentioned I always get his name wrong, but Otsmane. How do you spell it? Do you know how to say his name?
Hassan Otsmane-Elhaou.
There you go.
I think
he is also involved in all of Juni Ba's books because he was like Juni's gateway into the business. And Juni just dropped his first ever DC book, The Boy Wonder, which I was very excited about. Like, I was super excited to see what Juni Ba was going to do with a DC character. And I mean, real talk, like, it was just okay for me. Like, I mean, I really love his art, so it was cool to see him draw these characters. But I gotta be honest, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't need another origin story. Like, I think I'm origin storied out. At least if it's a character I already know. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I feel like there's this thing in the Batverse in particular where, like, everyone feels compelled to write their, like, Bat origin story of whatever character, and it's like, it's a 3-issue miniseries, so, like, I don't know. I don't think I need another Robin origin story. Like, I've heard the story many times. Like, Damien's only existed for what, like 20 years, like, as a character, right? It's like I don't know. So yeah, I don't know that I'm going to stick with it. Again, the art looks great. No shade on the craft of it, but it wasn't. It wasn't for me just because I just don't need origin stories in my life.
Right. Speaking of Juni Ba and origin stories, he has a teaser in the Free Comic Book Day Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book. I guess he's going to be working on a series called The Night Watcher.
Okay.
And my feelings about his contribution to this Free Comic Book Day book are pretty much your feelings about The Boy Wonder. Like, it's a bit of a whiff. Like, the art is not, from what I can see by these handful of pages they reproduce in here, the art is not what I've come to expect from Juni Ba. So it's like,
That's intentionally. I know, because I heard an interview with him some time ago, and I know he intentionally changes his style for each project, which I respect. But obviously, that also means that sometimes it's going to connect more than it won't, or that, you know, sometimes the art's going to really pull you in, and sometimes it might not. Yeah. Right.
Did you take a look at this at all, or either of you, this Free Comic Book Day issue?
No, I haven't read any. I haven't got my. I'll get them in my next DCBS shipment and then read
It's a bit baffling to me that they have a tease of a Juni Ba series and then they pad it out with an Andy Kuhn reprint. You could tell, at least I get the impression, that IDW has no idea what they're going to do with the Turtles moving forward. Like, after, because the Jason Aaron thing has yet to come out, right? So there seems to be things in the works, but I don't think this is an issue that's going to get anybody like super excited over. Jason Aaron's not even a contributor to this. So maybe you would see maybe a couple pages from that in here, but there's not. I don't understand it, where they're coming from with this issue. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I will say quickly, just because I don't want to take too long here, but I did finish Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, number 6. The final issue came out on Wednesday, and I very much enjoyed the way they wrapped it up. Thought it was clever and made sense, and again, one of those really quirky series, right? Like, kind of caught everybody out of nowhere. Just what if there was a serial killer in the world of Richard Scarry, and that's fun because that's not something I've ever read before, and I probably will never read again.
Right. So it's finished. It's done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh wow. Because the buzz is good on that book. I thought maybe they would have found a way to stretch it out or, you know, keep it going. But that's interesting.
That could certainly go back to it. I mean, I don't want to spoil how it ends, but it would certainly be possible to continue the book in some way.
Well, that's good because it's moving units.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here with us yet again. We hope you come back next time. Remember, cheapgraphicnovels.com. All the stuff you want at the super cheap price you want to pay. cheapgraphicnovels.com. And check out our Patreon page. Patreon.com/11 o'clock comics, 11 no apostrophe. Retooled recently. 2 options. Easy to digest. We hope you would check that out. Maybe join our Slack tier so you can hop in with our good buddies and budettes every day. We talk about you name it, and it's probably being lobbed back and forth on the Slack. So do that. And in your travels, what do I have? Oh, I'm sure you've seen the Avatar ads in the previews for like old books that they couldn't move. And now they're selling them at rock bottom prices.
They've been doing it for like 8 years now.
Yeah. That's why I said I'm sure you've seen them. The time was right because while I have the entire run of Crossed, I don't have any of them in these spiffy ass glossy hardcovers that I got for like $9 a piece. So I bought like 7 of them, and I'm rereading Crossed from the beginning, but I just thought it was worth mentioning that in the 6th volume, there is a Garth Ennis story that's absolutely incredible. Of course, it's Garth Ennis; it's going to be incredible. But it's so it sounds like the setup for a joke. You have an Englishman, an Irishman, a Scottish guy, and a Welshman, and they are trying to purge the Crossed from Britain, and it doesn't go well. There's one scene in particular that I really had to laugh. There is a preacher who finds himself charged with the safekeeping of a number of very young children, like grade school age and less. And when our 4 protagonists come across this preacher, he has painted crosses on the faces of the children, and he's imploring them to yell obscenities. So you have a group of little kids yelling "fuck," "shit," just to try and convince the cross that they're already crossed, so the cross won't bother with them. And that's never a good idea because the cross can tell. But the children do not come to harm in that instance. So there you go. And there are characters at cross purposes in this story. Of course, one secretly wants to just nuke the fucking place and the purge forever, and the other ones have no idea that that's his grand plan. And there you go. There's also a sequel to David Lapham's Psychopath story, written by David Lapham himself. So you have Garth Ennis, David Lapham, and Cy Spurrier in one book, just to show you that big names have touched the Cross universe, and it is very worthy reads. So Crossed Volume 6, you pick it up for a pittance as soon as they cycle back to the books. They do these bagged editions where they'll sell 4 alternate cover editions for like $20, and then the next month it's like maybe soft covers, and then the next month they'll do all hard covers, but they cycle it. It's not the same thing every month, so you have to wait till the soft covers come, or the hard covers come back around. But it's worth your time, especially at the prices you get them for. So yeah, Crossed, woohoo! It's nasty.
Nasty. In your travels, the 2nd issue of Ram V and Evan Cagle's Dawnrunner has hit, picking up after the events from the 1st issue, where Anita Marr was kind of out of it for a bit during her fight against the Tetsa, and we are introduced to Anita's daughter, who cannot is basically she's in a medical facility, and that's where she needs to stay. But the person responsible, the Lester, the guy in charge of all of this, he has questions for Anita that she really can't answer just yet. And as the issue continues, there is something else going on. There's a connection that wasn't really this information wasn't provided earlier, and I don't think really too many people were aware of this connection that I'm being deliberately vague about. But it adds something to what was otherwise a very interesting story with some beautiful art. I appreciate this little twist that they've added. So I'm curious to see where it goes. It felt like a really short issue. It went by really quick once the players were trying to go after that connection, that extra information. So I'm really anxious to read the third issue to find out where it continues from here. But yeah, it's, and I was actually, when the last time I was at the shop, I was talking to the kid behind the counter, and he had asked me if I was reading this, and I told him yeah, and he says yeah, because he picked it up on a whim, and he told a couple of customers about it, and now they all want it on their pull list. So it was neat to chat about it for a few minutes. But yeah, I'm kind of want that third issue to find out what the connection is between Anita's mech, the Iron King, she pilots, and something from the past. So in your travels, check out Dawnrunner from Dark Horse.
Indeed. This book's been on my list for a minute, so I'm probably going to give it short shrift since in your travels, but I want to get it mentioned, and that is Tender, written and drawn by Beth Hetland, Hetland, published by Fantagraphics. And no, Vince, this is not a young woman coming of age story. This is a story about body horror. It is a nasty book. It starts off probably for like the first 20 pages, very much like, oh, this woman has a very nice normal life, things are great, but the rest of the book is about her devolution, really sort of weighed down by all of the expectations society puts on her to be a great wife and a great mother and a great worker, and how all those things start to fall apart, and the way that she copes with it, which is just extremely explicit self-mutilation and body horror. And it's very much a horror book. It's in the most complimentary way possible. It actually reminded me of Charles Burns in a lot of ways, in the structure and the way that she depicts sort of the key moments. And yeah, it was terrific. It's Fantagraphics, so obviously that they know what the hell they're doing. And this would be a book for those listening. I know some of you are like me; you really like to read a lot of horror. Watch and read a lot of horror in October, and this would be a good book to just file away and pick up in October if you haven't already read it, because it'd be well suited for that time of year. So yeah, it's called Tender, Beth Hetland. It's
a monochromatic line, right? With
yeah,
It looks kind of neat. No color.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
It's bleak. It's bleak, Jason.
It's spot color. There's like spot color, like just every now and then sort of make a punch. But yeah,
nice.
It's very important. This woman does not have a great life. She self-inflicted, but it's not good.
It's not autobiographical, right?
It's a fucking body horror. It's a horror comic.
Well, parts of it can be autobiographical, like if this.
Well, I can't speak to that. I mean,
yeah.
But maybe the underlying message of like the pressure society puts on women to be certain things, but like beyond that, I mean, it's a horror book. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, we're out here. Get yourself to a comic book shop and buy some comics. Read them, love them, share them, talk about them, right? That's why we're here. And we hope you come back next time because we'll be here waiting for you. Say goodnight. Doopy doopy doo 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 doo. David.
Good night.
Gotta do the doopy doopy doo.
David.
Trombone. Who doesn't love a trombone?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It could be. You gotta lube it up.
Okay.
Tell them peace out.
Peace.
That's it for that one.